Hugh Hefner, a true American icon, created an empire that was unrivaled.
Although some of us bunnies may have gone rogue, it's because of the love and respect that we received from the man behind it all.
Because after all, we did learn from the best.
Relive the stories from the most prominent celebrity home in history.
What happens in the grotto stays in the grotto.
From those of us that lived it,
The employees that worked it,
And the guests who loved it.
And
the mayhem continues.
la 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 la.
That's how we're starting the show. You just tuned in. You're hearing Victoria get her vocals ready. We are Rogue Bunnies Mayhem, and we are blessed to have Toni DiSalvo, Playboy Mansion Security. Welcome, buddy.
Hello, thank you.
So, dude, how long were you at the mansion?
At the mansion, 36 years.
36 years.
See,
With Playboy, 38 years.
Wow.
it's amazing.
Well, before you were at the mansion, what were you doing? You said you were with Playboy.
I answered a newspaper ad in Boulder, Colorado for a mailroom driver.
What?
And and I showed up at a building where I was supposed to go, and it had the bunny head on the outside.
That is so funny. God, they really.
That's crazy. Well,
why in Boulder? That's so strange.
I know. Why would it be in Boulder newspaper?
Back then, computers were all big rooms. And the two main computer companies in the United States were Storage Tech and IBM, and they were both located in Boulder.
Oh, gotcha.
Got it.
Gotcha. All right. So now you come out here. I'm assuming the Playboy offices, probably on Sunset? Or were they on Sunset, or where were they at the time?
They were on Sunset. Yes, they were on Sunset. But yeah, that's where I went, was to the Sunset office. I was going to go to school in Santa Barbara, and they said, well, just go up to LA and go to Playboy there. There's 3 places that they have there, and you can continue working for Playboy and get your education. So instead, I came to Los Angeles, went to UCLA, and went to do a job interview for a job that I already had.
Now, when you're saying continue your education, did Playboy help pay for some of that?
Yeah, back in the 70s and the 80s, they paid full tuition for you to go to school.
See how cool that is?
It
Yes.
changed a little bit into the mid 80s when Playboy started having some difficulties, and then they eliminated it completely.
Oh, I thought it was or maybe it was Hef doing it personally because he was offering to pay for 2 years of school or something.
Well, we still had butlers that were doing the schooling program. We had a show with Bryant Horowitz, who we touched on that a little bit. And a lot of the schooling, and what was crazy about it, it didn't have to be something or a subject that was really pertaining to your job.
No.
That's
No,
what's
not at
crazy.
all.
It was just hey, Bryant went into science stuff, right? That had nothing to do with butlering or being at the mansion. Jeff Packman, you remember Jeff Packman?
Yes.
And I believe he was going through the schooling program. I can't remember if Jeff Birdsall did, but
3 security officers or 3 security personnel, they'd been the head of security at the time. They all went through and got their degrees, and it wasn't in security. That had nothing to do with security.
How did you go into security?
Yeah, how did you switch from that to get to the mansion?
I had actually interviewed for a couple other positions within Playboy while I was in Boulder. I went to Lake Geneva and I went to Great Gorge where they had their resorts.
Oh.
And I interviewed for positions there. I was actually offered a position in Lake Geneva. They had a restaurant management program that they only accepted 4 candidates in every year. And so I went, I saw the resort. I was interviewed, and a month later I received the offer. They had accepted me. But in that 1 month time, I had gone to a lot of restaurants in Boulder to see what restaurant management was all about. And I decided that wasn't what I wanted to do. And I said, fine, that's okay. And then in September of 81, I decided to go out to California to go to school. And that's when they told me, well, go to Los Angeles. You can still work for Playboy.
The Playboy's funny that way. Like they like to keep their people or to hire kind of within, kind of, right? Like they like to keep it within their.
Well, I think that's where we talk often about being part of a family, because it did really have that family, mold set of like where you protecting your own.
How many people were friends or family?
You're part of us, and so we're going to hook you. Oh yeah, friends and family that all came and worked at the mansion.
Yeah.
So when did it transfer for you, Toni, then to all of a sudden start working at the mansion?
Like I said, in 81, I decided I was going to come out to California. And that's when they said, just go to LA. So I came out to LA. I left Boulder on September 15th, and I started the mansion 2 weeks later.
Wow.
Wow.
And I actually, thinking back about it, I never went to the Sunset office except to fill out my paperwork stuff. And they just said, go to the mansion, and you'll be talking to John Heston. It's an animal department position. And I thought I was interviewing for the job. And so I dressed up like I was doing an interview. And I go, and he shows me around the mansion. And then he says, so when do you want to start? I said, what? And he goes, oh, they told me they were sending me a new person.
Oh, so you already had the job.
So it was an interview. Even before I started to come, before I headed out, I sent a resume directly to Hefner.
That's amazing.
So I don't know whatever happened to that.
Got to marry,
but
that's for sure.
I got out here, and I was out here for a weekend, 2 weeks, and then I started up at the mansion.
So, but you were saying you met with John Heston, and John Heston was
the head animal department. Department.
I mean,
he was available for the tour.
So you were being hired to work in the animal. I'm a little confused. You were hired to work in the animal department, or he was interviewing for security? I would have figured that you would be
introducing him to the property.
I was hired to work in the animal department. It wasn't for security. I had no security background. I was going to school for marine biology.
Oh,
so it worked out perfectly that they were doing me with the animal department. And I got to use a lot of it because one of my first classes at UCLA was with birds. And then I'd go up to the mansion, and it's, most of the animals there were birds. That worked out really well, but it was only a part-time job. And LA was a lot more expensive than Boulder was.
Just a little bit.
And I found out that they had an opening in security. So I talked to Joe Piastro, who was the head security supervisor at that time. Actually, Hank Eberhardt was in charge of security when I got there. And then he left later, about 1984, 85, I think. So then Joe became the security supervisor, Joe Piastro. They said, okay, we don't usually take from other departments here at the mansion for security.
Oh,
they wanted to keep security separate from the other departments. But they said, because I had not been at the mansion for that long a period of time, that they would go ahead and put me into security. So I got a full-time job in security, and I started that in December of 81.
What was the first time meeting Hef? What was that like? And what was your relationship with him like?
Oh, it was by accident, it just working and him coming out to see the animals. That's how I met Hef. I asked about the birds or asked about what was going on with the rabbits. We had the rabbit pen. I think that's where what I was doing was something with the rabbits. He came out and was just checking on stuff.
That's classic. You're playing with the bunnies and Hugh Hefner walks out. We're going to take a quick break, Toni.
Yeah, the real bunnies.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to be right back. I want to delve even more into what it was like to be part of security detail for Hef when he went out and about. We are Rogue Bunnies Mayhem.
Did you miss out on the first 2 Rogue Bunnies trading card drops? Don't let that happen again. Series 3 digital trading cards will be dropping very soon, and we have brand new gorgeous Rogue Bunnies to collect. Want more details? Make sure to join our Discord for the most up-to-date announcements. You can go to roguebunnies.com to find our official links. In the meantime, get your Dapper wallet ready to collect Rogue Bunnies Series 3 packs. And the mayhem continues.
Welcome to the metaverse!
This is your girl, Nikki Lee, Miss May 2012. Thanks for tuning in to Rogue Bunnies Mayhem. Be sure to keep an eye out for my Rogue Bunnies Series 3 NFT trading card drop. You want more details? Visit roguebunnies.com and follow us on social media for updates. And the mayhem continues.
So we were just talking about how, your first interaction with the boss, he came out to the animal area, a lot of the birds, you were playing with the bunnies. And then as it would go on, you'd end up becoming part of a security detail when he would start going out.
Yeah, everybody in security would be part of that security detail at some point or other.
In the 2000s, when he really started going out.
2001 and until about 2011, and it was all because of the girls next door that it really happened. He got married to Kimberly in the early 90s, and then they separated. She lived next door, and he started seeing the girls, and having his girlfriends. And then somehow he decided to go start being in the public eye again, because he was pretty reclusive in the 80s and the 90s. He was very reclusive. He didn't go very many places. He hardly ever left the mansion.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that's what I was going to ask. What the difference was from what we got to experience, and I know what I got to see, but with the 80s and 90s, what it was like for, at the mansion.
Right?
Before he was married. He had the parties.
Until he
89.
married. Right. When I got there, Sandra Theodore was the girlfriend and had been for 5 or 6 years. And then Shannon Tweed was the girlfriend for the first year that I was there. And then the next one was Carrie Lee. He never went anywhere with any of them. The only reason he ever left the property was to go to any medical tests he needed to have. That was it. He never went out, never did anything.
Till that one decade.
Till the 2000s, the beginning of the 2000s.
But he has written or has said in interviews a lot of time he didn't really want to go places because he had created his own Shangri-La.
Yeah.
And which really he created.
But he also said he'd already seen it all.
True that. Well, he did a lot of traveling with Barbie Benton.
And traveling through the 60s and the 70s. He did all that. But once he got to the mansion, he had created his Shangri-La.
I wanted to ask you a question about when you guys were all going out and he was going to restaurants. It's a well-known fact that you or one of the other security would have to bring his food to the chef of the restaurant and tell them with the instructions on how to prepare his food, because he never ordered off of any menu. He always brought his own food because he was such a creature of habit. He ate the same thing all the time.
Well, he knew what he liked.
Yeah, he knew what he liked. Can you tell us about a chef that ever maybe said no?
And maybe from a security standpoint, it's probably safer for him too to bring his own food, because you just
but we would just leave it with the chef, and then when we would come back with the entourage and for the meal and everything, so nobody was there watching what they did with the food. That's all we were told. We took a bag of food, what he liked and what he expected to eat that night. And it was almost always the same thing. And I don't ever recall seeing him order off of a menu from any of the restaurants that we ever went to.
Not even when he went to Trader Vic's, right? It was still all prepackaged.
That's different, I think. And that was really in the late 70s. And I don't know if you know who John Dante was.
Of course.
Oh, yes. I know of John Dante.
Hefner's, and he actually lived at the mansion, and he had his own restaurant, and Hef would go there, but that was in the 70s. In the 80s, he didn't go out to eat. He didn't do anything. And Trader Vic's, that was 70s and 80s. That was before my time, really. I cannot recall him going any place except for the board of directors meeting that would be held at the Playboy Club in Century City, and he didn't eat when he went there.
I remember what was packaged. It was the lamb chops. He had the Le Sueur peas. It was a can of peas, because I had to deliver it.
Yeah, the peas.
Yeah,
the
can of peas.
No, but it had to be the Le Sueur peas. Okay, there's these little petite peas. But I remember Bridget was doing like a a takeoff show where she was going to do Bridget's Beaches.
Yeah.
And we had to deliver and security was busy. So I got a phone call saying, hey, Brian, security's busy. Can you go deliver it? Because security's always the one that delivered the meals like we were talking about. This one time I had to go drop it off. And if you were asking earlier, Victoria, if you've ever had an altercation with a chef, yeah, the chef was not happy when we showed up to, what was it? Moon Shadows, I think it was. And I gave it and they're like, what is this? And I'm like, well, this is his meal. And there was actually a written instruction from Chef Carter, how to make it, and I go, here, you just follow this. This is what he wants. This is his thing. Just put this down when he comes here. Give it to him. The chef was so irate. What's wrong with my food? Why can't I serve him my food? I go, because he likes what he likes. Just serve it.
And he's bringing 50 people that he's going to buy other food for. So don't worry about it.
And he was so
the bill is always like thousands of dollars.
So that chef, how some chefs can get. This chef got irate, and started yelling with the manager. I'm just standing there feeling like an idiot. And the owner just literally goes, "It's my restaurant. You can leave." Told the chef to bail. He told the chef to bail. He looked at the sous chef and said, "You're cooking,"
but not to that extent.
Well, no, he wasn't fired, but he was just let go for the day. It's like, look, you don't want to follow along, and you're right. He was going to come in and bring all these people. We had
He spent
bus,
a shit ton of money when he goes
taking over the whole place. It's like
it's worth their while to have Hugh Hefner come and eat at your restaurant. You don't even have to pay for the food.
There was always at least a dozen or so people that went when they did. So everybody else was ordering off the menu.
Yeah. So, and they didn't have to buy his food and give it to him for free. I mean,
and that was publicity for wherever they were going to eat. So just put something on the man's plate that he's going to eat. Otherwise, he's going to be sitting there with nothing on his plate. And what kind of story is that?
Yeah. Well, that's another story there, because he really didn't like to eat in front of people.
Yeah.
True.
Right.
So at the mansion, you'll hear a lot of stories where people try to say this happened at the mansion, that happened at the mansion, or people will make accusations. And I'm always curious why somebody doesn't pull up the records of the logs, because I have never seen anything like the mansion. And Toni, you can clarify on this, about every single person that came on the property was actually put into a computer system. And then you guys also called the butlers.
Right.
And then everything had to be documented in the black book.
If anybody came on the property, unless it was a big event. And yeah, that's very true. That when I first started there, it was all paper. We didn't have a computer program. None of that was available at that time. There were files and files and files of guest logs of every single person that came on to the property.
It's pretty impressive. I mean, you could put someone's name in there, like a search bar.
Yeah.
And boom, all of a sudden you'd see every single time that they came up. What time they came in, what date they came in, how long they were there, once they left, all there.
Where did the mansion
once the computer system was set up and the computer programming was in place, that's exactly what you could do. Before that, it was just going back over by hand over the paperwork and seeing and jotting down when they were there and that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
The reason I'm kind of segueing off is to explain for the listener is how detailed everything was at the mansion, and everything had to go through security. So if someone says this happened at the mansion, well, then there's a log.
There's a log.
Down
to what he ate.
Yeah, there's a log. Everything is written out, and somewhere there's a log.
Isn't there also? Doesn't it also show what he didn't eat? Like, okay, he didn't eat this or he didn't eat that.
We would, if there were times where the butlers would say if he's not eating, they would actually take pictures and we'd show it to Mary and go, and he's not eating this, not eating that, and then it would be shown to the doctors. I mean, everything was really detailed to where, like, let's say and it was smart, right, Toni? Because
absolutely.
If the boss ate something, let's say he felt a stomach ache, right? We could track it back to who prepared it, who delivered it, what he ate.
Right.
You could take the black book. Security would just come in, boom, bam, take the black book, and they could go deliver it and go, here it is. Here's everything he's done for the last week. And how many people have that kind of detail? There's been some false rumors put out there that the mansion staff stole all of Hugh Hefner's personal gifts given to him, and that all in the one room where all these gifts were at was found empty. What did you say, or did you hear about this?
I haven't heard about that, but there wasn't a room at the mansion where everything was kept.
There
was a warehouse. There was a warehouse in Santa Monica.
Yep.
That everything was kept at. So it wasn't at the mansion. And the stuff that was kept at the mansion was either in the HMH office or in Hef's personal bedroom. That's it.
Yeah, so I just found that ludicrous when I heard that. It's like, oh, this one person wrote in their book that that's the mansion staff had stolen all his personal gifts and it was worth millions of dollars, which I find interesting because I'd like to know where these millions of dollars are. But there was no such room. And so when you hear these rumors, like another rumor, Toni, I know we talked about it on another show, but you're taking from a different perspective in security. You know the grounds inside and out. Did you ever run into any tunnels?
No, and I haven't heard anything about. I've never heard that one.
Oh, you never heard that one? Oh no, supposedly. What is it, Jim?
Oh, P. Diddy.
There are a couple of underground rooms, like underneath the game house. And
really?
where the animal area is, and that's it. But
how did you
was
get
just
to that?
Like animal keeper stuff.
Oh, so Victoria's asking how you get. She was surprised about the game house. Yeah, so if you went behind the game house, there was this little trap door. It was clear as day.
Yeah,
you
like
could
an
see
old
it,
Midwestern
but no one ever
house,
walked over to it. And
it was like a root cellar.
And then you just go downstairs.
What was kept in there?
It's maintenance stuff.
That's all it was. It was half excavated. And it was maintenance stuff down there. It was dirt. It didn't even have a concrete floor. It was just dirt.
Ew.
Yeah.
Spooky.
But I mean, if you haven't heard the rumors, Toni, so supposedly especially with all this P. Diddy stuff coming out now, that tunnels were all leading to the Playboy Mansion. Apparently there's tunnels
P. Diddy and they were trafficking
P. Diddy's
with
place and to Jimmy Cahn's, to freaking Jack Nicholson's, to
with like Playboy bunny heads on the walls of the tunnels. And
oh my gosh.
It's and you're like going and they'll bring up like these plans that they'll show. Who knows who made those? I think there was a joke at one time.
Well, Playboy put something out at one point.
So you talk about plans. Okay. They did have plans to excavate and put parking underneath the front lawn, sunken lawn area.
Yes.
They did have plans for that. It just never happened. To be underneath where the garage area was and to be underneath the sunken lawn area.
Yeah.
Because we lacked parking for when we had big events. And that's the only drawings I ever saw for anything that would be underground.
That's true. But
wow.
See, this is great that we're given this opportunity to be able to, for every listener that's out there making up all these false stories, tune in. Rogue Bunnies Mayhem. We're gonna find it and we're gonna tell you guys about it. You know what's the cool thing, Toni, is that Hugh Hefner built more than just a company. He built a family.
Yeah.
Like we just had our reunion.
Yeah, we had was the 5th reunion. We didn't have it for 2 years. It is a family. And it's gotten bigger every year to see, and it's great to see all the people. It's for everybody that ever came to the mansion, ever worked at the mansion, was a guest, a bunny, a model with Playboy. And the guests treated us like we were part of the guest clientele, not as employees. There were a few, of course, that their attitudes were quite different, but for the most part, the staff was treated like part of the family with the guests.
Yeah, for sure.
When you try to explain it to everybody, it's kind of they kind of just stare back at you and go, "Really?" I say, "Yeah, really." And that's the biggest thing that's missing since everything closed and since Hef passed away. And the reunion is a chance for everybody to remember that part of what their work experience was like. Because they see the guests, they see the bunnies, and they know how they were treated.
Speaking about how the bunnies were treated, and Victoria and Jen chime in on this, we've talked in many shows about how you ladies were always looked after. You were watched out for. Security always made sure that you girls were taken care of. Toni, you and I have talked, we've had altercations where we've had to, okay, this person needs to be escorted out or this person needs to be gone because they've crossed a line. You got ladies want to touch on anything that you can recall?
I had an incident where I was it was an event. It wasn't a Hef event. It was a paid event. And it was a lingerie party. And I forget what it was, but a lot of the men brought their wives, which that was a big mistake. So I was in the game house and the wives were in there. And so I got done with the tour and everybody was around And I was back kind of by the red room in the corner by the pinball machines or whatever. And they started cornering me and they're like, why would you want to do this? Why are you even here? What do you think? And yeah, they started cornering me. And I said, you guys showed up here in your lingerie to a man's house and now you're going to bash him and bash his life and question me. I said, I don't understand. And they started getting mad at me. And I knew there was wherever the camera was. And I remember raising my hand and being like this to the camera. And you guys, I don't remember who it was that came in. It might have even been you, but two of you came in immediately, busted open the door like, Victoria, are you all right? And I was like, bye. And like got away from there. But I was nervous. It was about 10 women that were really upset with me, questioning me. And that was my only time that I've ever had an issue with anything, but you guys were lickety split. It made me feel so important too, because they're like, what, where did he come from? So yeah, I felt very protected. I never worried about anything when I was up there, ever.
All the bunnies and the models and everybody that was the guests, any of the guests were told, if you need anything, just call security and we'll be there as soon as we can.
I'm glad that you guys are touching on that because it was definitely a place that people think, wow, you went there and you were mishandled, when in reality, that's probably one of the safest places in LA. I mean, you go to a club and you're going to be manhandled, but you try to manhandle someone at the mansion and you're escorted out in 2 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah. It happened on quite a few occasions. And that was the thing when we started having the outside events, everybody came in with that assumption that, I can just touch these girls and I can do whatever I want. That was not the truth. And it wasn't kosher. It wasn't allowed. And if anybody bothered anybody, you were confronted. And if we determined that this wasn't going to work out, you were escorted off the property.
I feel like we also didn't even have to say a word because you guys would just be like watching.
Yeah.
And you'd see the look. Because the beginning of a party, everyone's like, they're like scared to take a picture with you. You could feel their like arms shaking behind you. Then like 2 hours in, they've had a couple drinks at the bar. And then it's like the hand starts going a little lower. It's don't touch the bunny tail.
Don't touch that damn tail.
And all you'd have to do is give a look. And then someone would come over and be like, are you okay? And I'd be like, yeah, I'm done having pictures with that person. And then they would not walk up to us again. So you didn't have to make a scene. You didn't have to make a big deal about it. It just was, no more pictures. You've had enough pictures. Like, go enjoy the party.
You just have to whisper, touch the tail again and you're out, motherfucker. And then you smile.
So they're like, Toni, we're going to be wrapping up. How would you sum up your experience at the mansion?
Yeah, I went there with the intention of being there, getting my degree and being there for 5 years and then leaving LA. I ended up there for 36 years. It was the family atmosphere. It was being accepted and treated, with respect by the guests, by, the other employees and everybody trusting each other. That was part of me staying there. I really never expected to be in Los Angeles this long. And it was because of the mansion that I did. It wasn't for any other reason.
Well, dude, we love you, bro. Your family. It's cool. I'm blessed that Toni and I still get to work together because I still do events here for my boss. Yeah. And it's so cool that my boss even knows Toni, or you know what I mean? He knows all the mansion crew. It's great when we all get back together. It's cool.
Yeah. See, and when Brian does do events there at Vic's, he always has former Playboy employees working with him. It's just continued on. So my experience with the people from Playboy has gone from 1979 until present day on a regular basis.
Wow.
That's amazing. I love that.
Well, Toni, thank you so much, dude. Again,
absolutely.
You're always welcome back, and we look forward to it again. And I don't know if you do social media. Do you do social media?
No, I'm not a social media person.
Good for you.
You can't find him anywhere.
I told that to Victoria the other day.
That's awesome. All right, buddy. Well, thank you.
Never have been.
Well, thank you so much, dude. I'm Brian Olea.
I'm Victoria Fuller.
Jennifer Pershing.
And Toni DiSalvo.
And you're listening to Rogue Bunnies Mayhem, and
the Mayhem continues.